Hello and welcome to an update on Chinese New Year. Check it out. This is going to be a very interesting video. Everybody should pay attention to this. This is the Bitcoin chart since 2013, and every vertical line is a Chinese New Year. We're starting this count from back in 2013. And let's go from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. We've had 9 Chinese New Years. And this next one on February the 1st, 2022, will be the 10th in a row since the first one we're counting in 2013. Now, I decided to ignore 2010 and 11 and 12 because the first big price hike for Bitcoin was in 2011. But back then, anyone who knew what Bitcoin was may have just thought it was a novelty, some one-off weird thing that, would never become the thing that it is today. So there was no indication of a future for Bitcoin. And it was also so new that perhaps the amount of people who knew of it were so little that the effect of Chinese New Year wouldn't have a serious significant effect on Bitcoin. Now, 2013 was the first bull run that occurred after a halving, where the supply was cut in half, and it was the second big price rally in Bitcoin's history. So the world began to take note, and from 2013 on, people could see that Bitcoin was not a one-trick pony. The technology was very interesting. It was continuing. It had survived for 4 years, etc. Right. So that's why we're starting at 2013, and let's take a look at the details here. There's some very important things to take note of. The first is that there's no red on this chart. Every single Chinese New Year is green. Now let's zoom into the first one, 2013. Now, our price rise in 2013 started 36 days, as you can see down here, before Chinese New Year's, going to 24 days after, 60 days total, and for a 3.7x gain in the Bitcoin price. Fantastic. Also, take note, this is during a bull run, so this performance is going to be better than most. Now, let's fast forward to the very top of 2013. Then we had our giant 80% crash. But even off of the bottom of that crash, there was a giant bounce, which wouldn't have happened because of Chinese New Year. It was just kind of a dead cat bounce before a bear market. But the Chinese New Year effect, if you held all the way to Chinese New Year, you would have still had 90% gains in Bitcoin from the bottom in the beginning of a bear market. Now let's go to 2015, where it's the depths of the bear market. So again, Bitcoin found a very low price, a bottom here. But the Chinese New Year effect still took hold in 2015. Bitcoin going up 85%, 36 days before, 18 days after. Let's keep going. 2016. This was still, not a bull market. There was a nice rally here, doubled the price essentially. But even after a cool down, there was a New Year's pump. And again, if you weren't aware, Chinese New Year's, for the Chinese, there's a big cultural component for investing. Chinese New Year's includes a lot of mentality about investing in their culture. So investment plays a big role, and that's part of why we see these price rises every time. So 25% here only, but considering the context of the market, We were in a bear market. There was already a big pump. You know, we were at a high. It had fallen a little bit, but that, you know, you keep the context in mind. But the Chinese New Year effect took place 10 days before, 13 days after. So let's keep going to 2017. Now, this was the very beginning of 2017, so essentially the very beginning of the 2017 bull run. It wasn't officially really much of the bull run at this point. This was just where we broke the all-time high from the previous cycle, which was $1,183. But that wasn't broken until the very end of this box. So at this stage, the world wasn't sure there would be another bull run yet, or it wasn't proven on the charts. But still, 70% rise from 16 days before to out to 34 days after. Let's go on to 2018. Of course, we had our big $20,000 blow off top. We fell to a local bottom of $6,500. A lot of people thought that was the bottom of the bear market. Back here, this was about when I first invested in Bitcoin. A little after this, but yeah, to a lot of people, this would have looked like a bottom, and we had a 98% rise right here, almost double your dollars right here. Mostly 10 days before and 1, 2, 3, 4 days after. Again, this is after a big blow off top with bear market starting to form. Now, moving to 2019, totally in a bear market. We had the final capitulation drop just before Chinese New Year. A very fearful time in the market, if you remember this. And even during that most extremely fearful time, kind of like right now, if you think about it, from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, from a week before Chinese New Year, not much action, to 19 days after, 25% rise. Not much, but again, even in the most fearful bear market bottom, horrible time in the market, there was still a Chinese New Year effect, and the price went up. And shortly after, you know, we got out of that slump. Now, 2020. 2020 was still the bear market. This was post-halving here. No, this was pre-halving, but just before coronavirus. So this is definitely the bear market, the end of the bear market. 38 days before and 19 days after Chinese New Year, we had 57 days here, 63% rise, which was immediately followed by coronavirus. And the halving was around in May at some point. And of course, soon after the halving, the next bull run. Now, 2021, we were at the top of the bull run. We were nearing the top. So, and we had 100% rise because we were right in this second leg of the first phase of the bull run, 16 days before, 10 days after. And that brings us to this year. Let's zoom out here. We're at an extremely fearful giant crash in December. We may find a bottom in December. We may retest this low. We may go a little bit lower if the market's exceptionally bad. But we're likely going to hang around down here for a little bit. This is probably the bottom area. That's my prediction. And I really predict, I mean, I can't go against history. This will be the 10th year in a row that the market will be moving up for Chinese New Year, from some days before to some days after, just like almost every single one of these examples before, almost every example. There might be one Chinese New Year where there was only the movement slightly before or slightly after, but that's irrelevant. What I see here is a type of, we might have a bullish pattern like that and then take us up. And who knows what the price will do. This is all speculation, but I'm seeing upwards movement. And if we break the all-time high after Chinese New Year in February, then that'll be the opening up of a massive rally. Because once we break all-time high, and we had our first all-time high back here, and we're breaking these levels for a third time. This is 1, this is 2, where we got rejected. This would be 3. Once that breaks, it's game on. We're on the way to $100,000. So 2022, Chinese New Year 2022, will be probably one of the better Chinese New Years. 2021 had actually one of the worst performing Chinese New Years from right close to the end of it. I remember that. There was only like a 20 something percent rise, I think, right from after the date. And usually there were bigger rises in previous years after the date. I remember that. It fell sharply, like really fast. But we were already at a top over here. We were nearing the top of the bull run. In this case, we're only going to be retesting the previous highs to break out and keep going up to 100,000. So the context of this Chinese New Year will not be a top. It will be a mid-range going up to a new high, new all-time high. So we might get fantastic performance here. And that would be exceptionally true coming off of such a huge crash like this. So if you're coming off of a deep bottom during a bull run, well, let's take a look at a previous example of that. This is the top of a bull run. That doesn't count. 2020 was at the end of the bear market. That doesn't really count. 2019 was right close to the very bottom of the horrible bear market, so that doesn't count. Let's see. This is, let's zoom in a little here. This is 2018. 2018 was after the top of a massive rally, and this was like the dead cat bounce here. So that doesn't really count. It was still 100%, and there was definitely fear in the market, but this was, people had a lot of chances here to win big, so I don't think the context of the market was the same here. Let's auto zoom this. So 2017, we did have a correction here from the previous all-time high, way low, and then this is comparable. The beginning of 2017, people were hungry for this previous all-time high to break. It didn't here. It had a rejection, and people were probably expecting a retest. So here we only got 70%, but soon after we started the moves of the bull run. So I'm looking for something like this to happen, if not better. If we go to 2016, that was in a bear market. 2015 also bottom of a bear market. 2014 was again kind of like the end of 2017 bull run. There was a big crash. This was over. Maybe people thought it would keep going up, but I think we're most likely to be in a situation like 2013. Why? Because 2013 was the beginning of a massive bull run in the same kind of shape that we're having now in this year, except it's just stretched out more. But this was the beginning of a massive run. A lot of performance, a lot of returns, and I think our current market is hungry to see 69,000 all-time high be broken. And if Bitcoin is pumping up to those levels and even breaks those levels before and or after the Chinese New Year, in late January to early February, then we'll be off to the races for a massive rally. That's so we're 10 years later. There's something to say about that too. The next one will be 10 years after this one, and I definitely, in no way, shape, or form, expect a red month, or meaning a red period. In no way, shape, or form am I expecting that. Of course, anything can happen. The market might have a way of surprising us and letting us down. You always have to keep that open in your mind. You always have to keep an open mind. Maybe despite the fact that there's 10 Chinese New Years in a row in all of Bitcoin's history since 2013 that are always green, it doesn't mean anything. For some reason, this might be the first one that moves down during Chinese New Year's. But I sincerely doubt that, given the context of the market, given the fact that we're at the bottom of a flash crash after a dump to flash crash to major support level, with the market showing all the metrics, all the on-chain metrics that we keep talking about, showing supply at all-time lows. I don't see that. I see some kind of consolidation and upwards movement in the beginning of Q1 and a really nice move up. Let's anchor that. Let's use that as an anchor as well and wait for some good times here. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. Have a good night. Bye-bye.